Hello, Booktube. Happy Friday. This is Aaron from Aaron Read a Book, or Aaron Read a Book. Today I thought we'd do a bit of a mini Booktube event related haul because I've got some books in and the Friday reads. Just what I've been up to in June so far. Let's start with the old haul then. So these are all books I've got off eBay for like a couple of quid. For booktube events. So the first one is Star Trek 1. It's New Frontier by Peter David. Peter David? Yep. I didn't realise, but this is actually like a 21 book series, and this is the first one. I believe it follows this guy, who's Captain Calhoun, who's a fictional captain. So it's sort of an alternative series, really. But it's obviously got some of our favourites, Spock and Picard, in. So never read any of the Peter David ones, so I saw a lot of people like his stuff. So if anyone's read any Peter David or any of this series, let me know what you think about it in the comments. But yeah, looking forward to that one. Then I've gone for some of the old typical everyone's favourite westerns. I've got Shane. Never seen the film with Shane, but everyone seems to love this book. So the only thing I know about is Bill Hicks' routine about Shane, but sounds good. I like this cover. It's a nice addition. Then we've got another western classic. So I have seen the films of this one, True Grit, Charles Portis. This is from the newer film. I really like this one. I like the John Wayne one as well, but it's one of those rare remakes where it's actually decent. Yeah, so this is another one that everyone always says is really good, and I love the film, so I'm sure I'll enjoy this one. It's good to be getting some new westerns in. I've been watching a lot of Booktube in general because I'm in between jobs at the moment. I thought I haven't read much non-fiction this year, even though Historathon's going on, and it's sort of in my favourite sort of era at the moment. So I've started some Historathon, and I've mentioned in my previous video that I haven't read much about Byzantium or Constantinople, and I saw a new booktube to me, A Passage of Time, and she did a recommended reads, and she mentioned one about Constantinople, which is Roger Crowley's book about the siege of Constantinople. I've read of Roger Crowley before, actually, Empires of the Sea, which is about the siege of Malta, and I really liked that sort of good, exciting narrative history. So I picked this one up. This should be good as well. That's my little mini haul. I've got some from the library as well. I've got what did I get? Not Louis L'Amour, the other one. I'll pop it up on screen. I can't remember what it's called, but it's Zane Grey, the Lone Star one. So the one that Michael K. Vaughan's and that lot I've been reading. Yeah, so I'll try and get time for that one as well. Now, on to what I've been reading so far. So the first book I read was a Louis L'Amour, The Cherokee Trail. I've never read Louis L'Amour before, and it was sort of what I expected in a pulp western, which is obviously no editor has ever seen this book. I don't think, because there was a lot of repetition and sort of padding in it, but it was fun. It was surprisingly progressive as well. I had heard that he was didn't have any sort of racism or anything in his books, This one follows a young widow, a freshly widowed woman, and she basically is heading to take over what's it called? A stop on I forget the name, what they call it, but a stop on the trail. And her husband's killed on the way by this man who's got a good reputation in the community, so no one would believe it. And she takes over the job instead and starts running this trail house, and meets some sort of a dark and handsome gunslinger who's hanging around on the trail as well, who helps her out, and some younger characters. But yeah, I expected it to go sort of very romancy, but it didn't. It was very sort of empowering for the woman, so it was quite surprising, really. But I enjoyed it. But yeah, obviously could have used some editing, but good first experience with Louis L'Amour. I'll definitely read more of them. That you can fly through them. They're very readable. So that was my first book for Junior on the Range, and then I'll get on to the more famous ones after that. The second book I read was for Star Trek, so Book Trek. This one was a bit of a weird choice for me because it's Star Trek Discovery, and I think I watched about 3 episodes of Star Trek Discovery when it first came out, and then gave up on it. Like a lot of people, I'm guessing. Don't know many big fans of Discovery, but I thought the novels probably won't be sort of tarred by the same brush. But Una McCormack, this one is. So Una McCormack is a frequent guest on one of my favourite podcasts, which is the Backlisted podcast, which is this group that sort of reviews and publishes old books that aren't generally talked about. So authors that you don't see that often, like Barbara Pym and people like that, who I love. So that's why my sheet, and she's quite often on there, and she has done a lot of Star Trek books and Doctor Who books, and she's done a Firefly one as well, I think. This one's The Way to the Stars. So this follows Tilly, a character from Discovery, but it follows her when she's 16, and she's been sent to sort of diplomacy school because her mother's like a famous diplomat, and she's a real helicopter parent. So it obviously has a lot of the tropes you would expect from a 16-year-old going to school and having a lot of pressure on them and stuff. So very sort of a lot of the Harry Potter tropes. But I really enjoyed this book, actually. It was obviously not aimed at me. I think it would be more aimed at young fans who sort of grew up with Discovery, but it was very readable all the way through and entertaining, and it never slowed down for me. So Tilly sort of struggles. She obviously wants to be a scientist, and she's very interested in mushrooms. I can't really remember from the show, but I'm guessing that when she gets to the Starfleet, she is a sort of a scientist focused on mushrooms in some way. But this is basically her rebelling against the diplomat school and the adventures she goes on, and how she eventually does end up applying for Starfleet. So it's sort of a cool coming of age. It didn't. My only criticism was it didn't feel very Trekky, because she didn't really interact with Starfleet at all until towards the end of the book. Her dad is in Starfleet, so you get some mentions of it, but really it was sort of a young adult sci-fi, really. Like anyone could have read this and never seen a Star Trek episode in their life. So, but it was fun. Now the books I'm reading at the moment. So the first one I picked up was again Historathon related. This is Dan Jones's The Hollow Crown, The War of the Roses. So I'm a big fan of the Plantagenets, and I read his book on the Plantagenets a few years ago. He's a sort of narrative historian. He's not like breaking any new ground or anything. He just goes through the time period in quite an entertaining and readable way. So yeah, so I've read a lot of books about the Plantagenets, but I've never read much about the War of the Roses. So this covers sort of from the period the end of the Plantagenets to the Tudors, and it actually covers the beginning of the Tudors as well, but with the War of the Roses in between. Yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. So obviously, Dan Jones is very readable. I did find it very interesting, the Joan of Arc parts. So maybe I should read a book on Joan of Arc. I just find it extraordinary that this sort of 17-year-old girl turns up and says, "Oh, I'm in charge of the army now," and they're like, "Okay." Imagine if that happened today. If a 17-year-old girl went up to Rishi Sunak and just said, "Oh, God told me I'm in charge now." I can't imagine he would have agreed to that. Donald Trump might have. And the other one I'm reading is another new author to me, is My Antonia by Willa Cather. So I think she's sort of well regarded for her short stories as well, and I can see why, because she's really, really beautiful writing. And this is about it's from the perspective of a young boy who's moved from Virginia to the plains of Nebraska. I'm not sure the exact date, but it's obviously very early on. There's very few people there. And he becomes friends with Antonia, who's a immigrant from Bohemia and can't speak English at first. But yeah, it's very beautiful writing. I'm enjoying that so far. I get the feeling she's not very plot heavy, but more stylistic. But I don't mind that at all. Yeah, I'm enjoying that so far. So that's my Friday reads so far. Well, my June so far, I should say. Let me know if anyone's read any of these books, especially the new ones. And how's your June on the Range reading going? How's your Star Trek reading going? Yep. See you all next time. Bye.